Alright guys, I'm here to complain. I was gonna make the next deck building episode, but I have enough complaining to do that I think this should be its own thing, honestly. This was gonna be an intro segment to the deck building episode, but the deck building episode will come after this later in the day. So I was playing on my main account, right? And I realized that my decks aren't good enough anymore. I used to play C tier decks because C tier was good enough that it could compete with A and S tier if you played good. And then, eventually, as A and S tier got stronger, I couldn't play C tier anymore, so now I had to play B tier. And now, what I've realized today is that B tier decks aren't good enough to compete with A tier and S tier decks anymore either. I used to tell myself that if I played perfectly, I could theoretically win every game. Because, if you think about it really, Control just beats everything. Cycle loses to Control. Cycle beats Beatdown, but Control is also Cycle. So Control beats Cycle and Beatdown, and Control beats Spam. So Control beats Spam, Cycle beats Beatdown, which is also Control, and Control beats Cycle. So Control is just Gun in Rock, Paper, Scissors. So I guess you could say that I'm biased, because I like Control, and it's kind of not good for the game to have a win condition that always wins. But of course you do have to play perfectly. But that's the thing. The game is old now. People have long known that Control is theoretically the best, but just hardest to play. But people got bored of that. They got bored of that years ago. The game that had Control as the best win condition is dead. That version of Clash Royale is dead, and it died long ago. What the devs did to keep the game alive was this. They added overpowered cards. The thing is that Control is theoretically perfect. But if there is an overpowered card in the game, something uncontrollable, then you can beat Control. Playing perfectly with theoretically perfect deck just isn't enough because their cards don't get as much value as the overpowered cards do. So I don't want to say this like it's a bad thing. The introduction of overpowered cards was actually what saved the game. Of course, they're not stupid. They realize that everybody's complaining about the overpowered cards, but the game that didn't have overpowered cards, nobody was playing. It was dying. So they started adding these overpowered cards for the sake of making Control worse. Well, I've been clinging to Control all this time, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse and worse, and every variant that I play seems to be a little bit more meta than the last, because I just can't keep up with my other variants anymore. So, yeah, I can't really play on my main account anymore. The thing is just that I can't play Control without meta cards, and I'm a free-to-play player, so I can't get meta cards fast enough. If I do wait, then I have to stock up a bunch of wild cards and Evo shards, and then I can drop them all on meta stuff like once every couple months, and then the game will be playable again once every couple months. But that's just, I'm not interested in that. I'm not going to grind for several months for the ability to play for 1 month. That's just, no. So anyway, I'm going to explain why, I'm just going to talk about overpowered cards right now. So anyway, Berserker. Berserker is overpowered because she's too versatile. She fits in too many decks, she can do too much. You just take your Spirit out of the deck, put in Berserker, or take your Skellies out of the deck, put in Berserker. She does everything. Doesn't do it very well, but the thing is, you have tower help. And with tower help, she does everything enough. So she can defend pretty much anything on her own. Log was overpowered. Log being overpowered was actually one of the things that kept Control alive, but the Log nerf hit pretty much every deck I play extremely hard. Minions, overpowered, not defendable. If you spam with minions and it's 3 elixir versus 3 elixir, the minions are going to do more for 3 elixir than pretty much any other card that you could play because they just got too much stats right now. And that's how the game works. Play your stat cards. Miner. So I was talking about Control a second ago, right? So Miner is kind of like a canary in the mines, right? So if Miner poison alone with nothing else, no bait, is viable, then the meta is quote-unquote balanced. But the thing is that they don't want a balanced meta. They want an overpowered meta. They want a meta where you can just play overpowered cards at the river and it will break through Miner Control. Because if perfect defense exists, the game is boring. It's balanced and it's more skillful, but it's boring. And that boring game does not exist anymore. We're playing a game that is so far removed from that. So I bring up Miner because you can see that they've been consistently nerfing Miner as a win condition and leaving him the same as a tank. So he is just as good as now as he is all of that time ago as something that can tank for bait. He is a bait card now. He is not a win condition. He's like a secondary win condition, kind of. But it's just Miner alone as a win con is dead, and it's been dead. And it's just like, it goes to show that defense just isn't good anymore because you can't full defend. It won't work. Gobhut has too much health. Gobhut's actually extraordinarily strong against single targeters, but I don't even really mind that much because it's a 4 elixir building. It better do that, right? I mean, iDrag is extremely strong against tanks too, so it's okay for Gobhut to be so good against single targeters, but what I do mind is the fact that it has so much health. So, like, you can't even overcommit to get through a Gobhut. Even if you overcommit, all you do is just stop their counter push. You have to overcommit to stop them from getting an overpowered counter push with the Gobhut. There's just no good way of playing a spam deck to get through a Gobhut. It's just, Gobhut doesn't really have any counterplay, really. You play the Gobhut at full defense, and that's it. That's just it. It completely loses to Curse, by the way, which is just... Curse is something I have to talk about later. But, yeah, it's just... It's not good for the game the way that Gobhut is overpowered. Furnace. It's got too much range. It actually spawns Fire Spirits very slowly, so it's not got very good synergy with anything. It just... People play it because it's too good right now. You play it, you get a guaranteed positive trade, and you use the guaranteed positive trade for your other win condition in the deck. So, honestly, what I'd like to see is after they nerf the Furnace's range, they should increase its move speed and increase its spawn speed. So it's better synergy by spawning more Fire Spirits, but because its move speed is faster, it's not going to stay on the map for nearly as long anymore. Drill. Drill is an interesting one because it's not the greatest in the world, or at least it wasn't the greatest in the world before Snowball Drill became a thing. But, so, Drill... for a long time has had this thing where if you are true red or true blue, I don't remember what it is, but one of them, the drill just becomes physically undefendable if you don't have a specific counter in your deck. Like, if I'm playing knight on a drill, I have to play my knight on a specific tile on a specific timing to full counter a front drill. But if you aren't lucky, it just doesn't work. It's just, it becomes undefendable if you aren't lucky. Like, in what way is that balanced? How have they left this in all of this time? So, yeah, Drill is one of the first completely undefendable win cons that they just decided was okay for some reason. Boss Bandit. Boss Bandit, she's fundamentally broken in a card concept, but not more fundamentally broken than a lot of other things, honestly. Really, all she needs is a damage nerf. I mean, not a damage nerf, a health nerf. So, here's the thing. She does a lot of damage, but she's 6 elixir. Alright, fine. She has a lot of hit speed, but she's 6 elixir. Alright, fine. She does a huge dash. Her dash hits like a Mega Knight jump. But alright, fine. Maybe they just wanted to have a 6 elixir unit that dashed and hit really hard. So every time she dashes, whether she hits a ranger or a tank, it's still good value. So Bandit, right, Bandit dash is bad value into swarms and bad value into tanks. Boss Bandit dash is no longer bad value into tanks, only bad value into swarms. So Boss Bandit is like a regular bandit, but with one less bad scenario. And of course, double the cost in return for that. But here's the problem, right? So you can just spend an elixir for the Boss Bandit to get an extra dash. So that dash is the entire point of the card, right? The entire purpose of the card is for you to play in a specific way where the Boss Bandit will dash. But instead of having to play smart, you just hit your dash button and it dashes. So you get a pretty much guaranteed positive trade every time you mash your dash button, which is why all of the good Boss Bandit players just always mash their dash off cooldown, which is so fun. So, like, I don't know what to say about the dash, right? It's fundamentally broken, but there are a lot of fundamentally broken things in this game. Like Archer Queen, 1 elixir, gets 7 shots for pretty much free. That 1 elixir is guaranteed to kill a mini tank if you have to play a mini tank on it. Which means that for 1 elixir, you're guaranteed to get 2 elixir or more, but almost always 3 to 4 elixir. And because of that, it's a guaranteed positive trade. You hit the button, you get your positive trade. Boss Bandit's the exact same way. You hit your button, you get your positive trade. But the issue that I take with this is that, alright, fine, some cards are just going to be you hit your button, you get your positive trade. But Boss Bandit, in order to make hit a button, get positive trade balanced, you need the regular stats of the card to not be overpowered. But Boss Bandit's stats are overpowered. She's got 2 good stats and a guaranteed positive trade button, so she's just undefendable. Yippee, I love undefendable cards. So the thing with undefendable cards, right, is that everything's undefendable. If everything is undefendable, then defense is just bad. And here's the thing. If defense is just bad, then you have to play good offense. But if all that's left is offense, then how do you play better? Because if anybody slightly decent knows how to play offense, then it's not going to come down to who plays better. It's going to come down to whose cards are better, who bought the most recent overpowered card. And that's the thing. Like, it doesn't really matter if you're better at your spam deck. What matters is you have the better spam deck. It's not you that has to be better, it's the deck that has to be better. And that's what it's sad to see that I've been trying to get good at this game for so long, and they're making it so that you don't have to be good to play the game. Or even be top ranked in the game. Monk, undefendable. His ability lasts too long. It does too good into Rangers. 1 elixir to full kill a Musketeer is kind of just not okay. The health nerf, I don't know why people decided that the damage reduction nerf during ability, I don't know why people decided that that was going to be a big nerf. I mean, he's still functionally unkillable during his ability. I mean, he's still got an Evo Knight level of shield, so it's not like he's going to go down. So, yeah, you slap a monk in front of something, your ability, it's pretty much just going to work. Plus, the fact that it has guaranteed Tower Reflect is definitely not helping. God Machine, I'm not going to say the God Machine is stupidly broken. God Machine is just a way that you can make other things broken. So, God Machine, the only way to stop a God Machine is to keep it out of range of your Rangers. But, if you play God Machine behind an overpowered tank, say Monk or Boss Bandit, then it's guaranteed to get close to your Rangers because the overpowered tanks are simply too tanky. And that means the God Machine will get too much value. So the God Machine, it has an overpowered scenario. I'm just mentioning it because it's been around in a lot of overpowered decks recently. Lightning, still extremely good into control. You can't really control a Lightning player because they're guaranteed to get value. You can't set up your full defense. If you set up your full defense, you're giving them Lightning value. If you give them Lightning value, they get so much damage on your tower, Minor Poison can't even keep up. Prince is still overpowered. They never nerfed Prince. I don't know why they decided to never nerf Prince, but they decided to never nerf Prince. I love that. That's so fun. Spirit Empress is also monstrously overpowered right now. That is also very fun. This is going to be a long segment here of talking about overpowered cards. Empress, the thing with Empress is that she just does too much DPS. Like, I understand that her purpose is the air card that wins all the interactions, but like, that's not good for the game because air is difficult to play anything into. She doesn't have any bad scenarios. Her worst case scenario is bats. That's it. Her worst case scenario is something that doesn't even kill her. Isn't that crazy? Like, there just isn't a bad scenario for Empress. I mean, like, technically the worst case scenario is rocketing the Empress with something else, but she's got a 5-tile range. No way you're hitting something else with the Empress. So, yeah. I think she was overpowered before the range buff, by the way, and the health buff. She didn't really need either of them, but, she got an absurd amount of value just because of her stats beforehand, because it wasn't the range that made her broken, it's the DPS. Like, I think that most people just were sleeping on the Empress beforehand. And because they overbuffed her, now she's stupid right now. God Curse. The reason why I'm talking about God Curse in a conversation like this is because this, I mean, I could talk about Rage too, but God Curse is more impactful than Rage, actually. So Rage makes overpowered cards more overpowered. God Curse does the same thing, but in reverse, where it makes all non-overpowered cards more underpowered, right? Or it just makes all cards less strong, but overpowered cards into less strong cards is the same thing as making the strong cards stronger. But the reason why I want to bring up Curse is just because the way that Curse functions is that it is a spell that makes other spells better, which means that as you have more elixir for spells, God Curse becomes inherently stronger. So you notice that a lot of decks right now are playing Curse double small spell because you don't need a big spell. Why would you play a big spell when you can play more small spells to get through the spam in single time, and then in triple time or double time, when you need a big spell, instead of playing a big spell, you just play more small spells on it because the damage amplification of the Curse makes it so that playing 2 small spells plus Curse is practically big spell damage. So the Curse makes it so that you can play a bajillion small spells and just get away with it. And because of that, it allows decks to get away with bad deck design. Curse is a good idea, but it's not good for the game. It's a lot like Lightning in the sense that it just hard counters control. Another thing that I want to talk about Curse is just the fact that how hard it hard counters some things. Like if you look at Tombstone, Tombstone spawns a lot of skeletons. What is Tombstone player going to do against Curse? There is nothing to be done against Curse. The problem with Curse is that there is no counterplay to it. It has such a good effect spawning gobs. Like, the thing with Curse is that it hard counters Witch, it hard counters Night Witch, it hard counters Tombstone, it hard counters Gob Hut. There's so many things that it hard counters in the game with absolutely no play, the same way that Mother Witch is lame. But, like, it also has good utility on top of hard countering so many things. And it's just, that doesn't make sense to me. I feel like it should either not spawn gobs, or make it harder to spawn gobs, or nerf the damage amplification. They shouldn't have so many good use cases for a card like that, on top of also allowing bad deck design. We're still not done yet, by the way. We've got more things to talk about in this episode. So we've got this is the Evos page, by the way. Evo recruits. If you're playing a control deck, you'll know this. It's a painful feeling. One recruit always bypasses. If you play your defense on tiles that used to work, they just don't work, because they changed the bridge so that one recruit always just sneaks straight to the tower, ignores your skellies, ignores your building, ignores your rangers, straight to the tower. And this just, it's undefendable. If you don't want to put yourself in a bad situation against recruits, you are guaranteed to take like 300-ish damage per time they play their recruits, which means that you must get 300-ish damage on offense. Well, let's look at this. So it's, yeah, about 300 damage on level 11. So that means that the minor player, like, let's just imagine that we're playing minor, right? The minor player has to get, I think, 4 or 5 minor hits. But the thing is that so many things hard counter minor anymore that you're not getting 4 or 5 minor hits, or at least do so good into minor. So it's just, you can't keep up with recruits. If you're playing a chip deck, you can't keep up with it. You have to be playing some sort of bait deck that can get major connections. You can't play a chip deck anymore. Chip is dead. Mega Knight. Evo Mega Knight, it's too good. The reason why I say Evo Mega Knight is too good is because it's defendable on offense. It gets you a lot of value, but other Evos get a lot of value too. So it's overpowered, but everything's overpowered nowadays. The reason why Evo Mega Knight is so good is because of this. If you're playing a deck that does not have direct tower damage, what are you going to do into an Evo Mega Knight? Because they can just sit back and wait. What do you do about them waiting? Because you can't go in, because if you go in, you're giving them a Mega Knight. And since it's an Evo, taking a negative trade into something that's already overpowered is going to kill you. So you just, fundamentally, you cannot play into an Evo Mega Knight. You have to wait for them to play it. But, at the same time, if you don't play anything into their Evo Mega Knight, they just won't play their Evo Mega Knight. And it'll just sit in their hand forever, which means that just owning an Evo Mega Knight makes it physically impossible for you to break through with a lot of decks. Isn't that crazy? Like, just the existence of a card makes it so that half of your deck is shut down. How is that balanced? I think that they should make it so that if you don't play your Evo within 4 cards of getting it, it just loses the effects and becomes a normal card again. So that you can't just sit on a defensive Evo forever and make it so that it's impossible for anyone to go in. Evo XC, another overpowered evolution. It does double damage. 10 elixir worth of DPS. I love 10 elixir worth of DPS for 5 elixir. That's so fun and balanced. There's not much else to say about that card. It's going under the radar because there's so many other overpowered things right now, but Evo XC is another overpowered thing. It's like in the A and S tier type of cards where if you want to have a deck that can win, you're going to have something that's like Evo XC. Evo Hunter, another overpowered Evo. It's flying under the radar because other things are more overpowered, but it is still extraordinarily leagues above everything else. Like normal cards versus Evo Hunter wins every game. But Evo Hunter versus the stupid overpowered stuff, Evo Hunter doesn't even do all that good. So it's flying a little bit under the radar, but it's just still really good. Evo iDrag, the problem with Evo iDrag is that it stays charged for a second or two too long. If you defend with Evo iDrag and then it counter pushes, if the person who is defending the Evo iDrag waits for the absolute last possible moment to play anything on the Evo iDrag, it's still charged. Like, if you defend with an Evo iDrag, it will always still be charged by the time it reaches offense, which means that it's physically impossible to stop Evo iDrag from getting value. And that is exactly what I've been complaining about this entire time. Everything is guaranteed value, and if everything is guaranteed positive trades, then it doesn't matter if you're playing good, playing bad. You just have to play your positive trade. It's going to get a positive trade whether you play it well or not. You play your positive trade, it gets a positive trade, and then if you have the bigger positive trade card, you win. If they have the bigger positive trade card, they win. How fun! Evo E-Drag, it's still worth complaining about. Just because it's not overpowered in a cycle dex doesn't mean it's not overpowered. It's too good against beatdown. Not that I even play beatdown, but I know. I've played Evo E-Drag once or twice in my life, and just watching it tear apart an entire push, I can tell that's overpowered. What they should do is they should slow down its chain speed. So you know how regular E-Drag chains at a specific speed? It goes ba ba ba. Well, a little bit. It goes much faster than that, actually. Let me check the video. But they should make it so that the Evo E-Drag chains approximately that speed, where ba 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 instead of ba 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 ba. It chains faster in the evolution, I think, which is kind of weird. So if they made it so that it chained at regular speed, or maybe even what they could do is they make it so that the infinite chains don't do any damage, but they continue stunning. So you can perma-stun a push, but you cannot annihilate a push. It'll at least take a long time, so you have time to do something about the E-Drag, right? RG. RG is an overpowered card in itself. Just the Royal Giant alone has too much health. But on top of that, so like if you're playing a control deck into RG, the RG will always get a hit unless you want to overcommit on it, and you can't afford to overcommit on it because they've got other overpowered cards. But on top of that, the Evo effect is really good. The fact that it does knockback and damage is very strong. So knockback is a strong enough Evo effect on its own. Just ask Evo Xe. But the fact that it also does damage is what makes this difficult, right? Because so sometimes when you're defending an RG through all of their support, right, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to play units directly on the RG, and they're going to get hit by the RG splashes. But sometimes what happens is, after you've finished killing their support for the RG, something survives on a sliver of health, and that sliver of health is what causes that unit to be able to survive and kill the RG. But because the RG does that little bit of damage every time it hits, that means that every once in a while there will be an interaction where the RG actually kills something important. And when it does kill something important, that minor interaction change is always game-winning. There is never a match where when the RG kills something important, it is not a game-losing interaction. So it's just, because of the all-or-nothing nature of that, I don't think that they should give it the extra damage. I mean, of course, every Evo could deserve nerf, but like, just the way that Evos are, the way that they're undefendable, it's gross, man. Evo Gob Giant. Evo Gob Giant actually doesn't have as strong of an Evo effect as one might think. It's a good Evo effect, but it's not overpowered. Here's the reason why it is overpowered. Chef. Stab Gobs take 2 hits to kill from a regular tower. Princess Tower. They take 3 hits to kill when they're over-leveled. Say, when they have a Chef Pancake. But here's the thing. A level 16 Gob Giant spawns level 16 Stab Gobs, which means that when the Chef buffs the Gob Giant, it gets a tiny bit of extra health on the Gob Giant itself, but it gets 50% more health on the Stab Gobs. 50%. That's not okay. 50% is not okay. That's why all of those Gob Giant triple tank decks are going around. It's just because of the Gob Giant Chef synergy. All the rest of the Chef synergies are just meh. But the fact that the Gob Giant is a spawner that can consistently spawn those overpowered things is so broken. Because you can, out of the one pancake, you get so many level ups. There isn't really much to do about that other than just vaulting Chef, but I sense they're not going to do that because they're okay with overpowered stuff being in the game. Did you think I was done? Still a little bit more. So, Evo Gob Barrel. Evo Gob Barrel is fundamentally broken for the game. Why is it fundamentally broken for the game? Even in its worst possible scenario, it is only possible to get a neutral trade into Gob Barrel. It is physically undefendable to defend an Evo Gob, to try to defend an Evo Gob Barrel for a positive trade. There literally aren't cards in the game that can do that. If they play it alone, no support whatsoever, then what can you do? You can log, Bar Barrel, or Snowball one side, and Skelly is the other side. That is the only play that you have. You must have Skellies in your deck if you want to play neutral into Gob Barrel. It must be unsupported, and you must have a small spell on hand for the other side. That sounds very balanced, doesn't it? So anyway, if they play even a 1 elixir Ice Spirit, then suddenly things change drastically. Because you can no longer Skellies full defend the Evo Barrel, which means that they're guaranteed damage. Wow, I love guaranteed damage. That's so fun. So if they have 2 tanks down, it goes from worst case scenario defendable for neutral trade to guaranteed positive trade. What have I been keep saying about these guaranteed positive trades? It's just not good for the game. Well, I mean, it's good for their version of the game, but it's not good for me. It's not good for me, and that's why I'm complaining about it, because I am selfish, and I am unhappy that the decks that I play are dead now, because I like playing defense decks, and they have finally nerfed it so that I cannot play defense decks anymore, and I can't even swap to offense decks, because offense decks are based on what they decide is meta. Offense decks are very fickle, right? In order to play an offense deck, you need what's new, what's overpowered, because you're not going to break through defense with an offense deck unless you have something overpowered. But by nerfing defense so much, it's just defense isn't playable. I don't have anything that I can play offense with, so I just can't play the game. So I'm pretty much just stuck here on my mini account for the foreseeable future, which is fun. Alright, also the last card, Evo Skelly Barrel. I mean, there's not really much to say about it. It's a new evolution, so of course it's overpowered. So, yeah. I'm guessing that I'm not going to be... Well, so, like, I had been hoping someday to get back to top 10,000 in the world again with my low-tier decks, because I like playing low-tier decks. I like being better. I like having to play better. Because if I don't know how to play better, then there's no reason to play, right? But the thing is just that it's not a matter of me playing better anymore. It's a matter of them playing worse. Because their decks are just so good. If they even play neutral, if they play not stupid, I won't win. They need to play worse than stupid, and I need to be playing perfectly. And that's not fun. So, yeah. I can't get back to top 10,000 anymore. I'm not even sure if I'm going to be able to get to top 10,000 on this account, because you remember I said that the goal for this mini account was to get top 10,000 in the world at some point, but just the way that they've designed the meta, it's not really feasible. So, yeah. See you guys next time.